Hello, Something Ghouls and Goblins. This is Something Guy 912 back with you for our weekly deluge of odd architecture regarding the Ravenholm chapter of maps in lieu of spooky season. Following from D1 underscore town underscore 01 is D1 underscore town underscore 01A. How original. So let us not delay and get scrutinizing. Alright, and we are properly in game. Now, I did read some of the comments on the last video about the questions about Matt underscore Fulbright. Fortunately, there was a little bit of a back and forth between you guys, so until I get more of a vocal outcry against Matt underscore Fulbright, I'll just continue to use it until otherwise stated. So, starting off, we open this door, and of course we have the fast head crab that comes barreling at you, and you have to kind of think fast on your feet by shooting these barrels. Now, of course, the entire construction of this stairway and these barrels only exist for that head crab to be blown up by them. It's kind of almost kind of bait, because I'm pretty sure half of the time you're going to be hurting yourself more often than that head crab would hurt you to shoot them. So, anyway, we'll move on. We open this door. We open this door. Stupid head grab. And Father Grigori comes out to shoot the zombie in a place that is once again impractical from the last place we saw him come from, which was effectively the other side of this building from here. Now, given that this room has like a zombie and whatnot, and came down from a stairway, and we came in here from a ledge in the prior map, there's basically no way for anyone to get to this place, like real or imagined. Like, there's not like a door model here. No, it's just practically a dead end from ledge to ledge at this point. And then he's taking care of some of those zombies for us. We have more of these weird support and pulley systems from the beta. Obviously, they're not as used here, and they're a little bit less practical than the last one was. They're kind of copied over from there as well. And then, of course, we have a few zombies, head crabs, and whatnot. There's a whole smatter of dudes to take care of. Now, the ledge that we dropped off from, and some parts of the ledge, kind of have this weird, it's like scaffolding, but it's not quite scaffolding, and I'm not sure the practical use of this to be designed this way before the zombies came in. And then, kind of going up here, we see these two smokestacks and the giant crane construction. Now, I believe this falls in line because in the prior map, there was a out-of-bounds texture of two smokestacks and a giant crane. I think this falls in line with their placement relative to the prior map, but I'm not exactly certain. But I believe they are consistent with each other. Now, going down to the street proper, there's this little crawl space section that you can blow this gas barrel, and a few head crabs will come out and they'll get burned to death. But as for what it served, I don't know. Like, clearly it was used for some rebel to kind of just, you know, hide in here. But as for what this served naturally in terms of the street, who knows? And not to mention the overall crampedness of this part of Ravenholm is once again going to be greater emphasized. Over here we have this weird grate that's covering some of the shrubbery. And again, I'm not really sure what this is used for. Maybe just to make sure people don't accidentally fall in here. Like, I believe I've seen things like this in, like, Portland and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure there was a more straightforward reason for why they were here, rather than just kind of being placed here. Not to mention the ever-burning fire with some of these head crabs just deciding they want to be burned to death, I guess. They just love that fire. It's like a moth to the flame for them. And as far as I'm aware on the outbounds, seems like most of it is fairly practical, although there is something that is very impractical in terms of just the overall tightness of it. So we have this portion of street that's covered by these boards again, and looking up, as you can tell, it's divvied up by this small piece of brick lining here, which is just funny because they probably could have just cut this out, and this probably wouldn't look nearly as odd if you were just looking directly up at it this way. And then back around this way, we have this small alleyway, which is weird that it's an alleyway when it has the, like, street paving texture on here. And just around the corner is just some more health packs in case you really didn't deal with the zombies on the ground here this way, especially with this tanker being on this, like, incline ramp this way. I don't know why this would be set up this way in this little tight corner, or alleyway, if you will. And then going out to where you have to climb up to this ladder and the other end of this pulley, we have these out-of-bounds apartment buildings and this tower. Now, it's interesting that this out-of-bounds texture does not really coincide with any of the other out-of-bounds texture of Ravenholm, because it's obviously, this is like out-of-bounds textures for like areas in the canal levels, and they were a lot more open. You kind of just emphasize the overall size of City 17, but it's just here in Ravenholm, I guess, where it's just, you know, a lot of fields and whatnot, even though everything else in Ravenholm is extremely kind of just tight-knit. And then we go up this ladder onto this small catwalk, of course no railings, and supposedly this is a means to, I guess, trapeze yourself along the supports this way. I don't know why there would be a ladder and ledge purely for that, since it doesn't even track to the rest of the supports out this way. And then, of course, you can go further down and into this little attic where you'll get jump scared by a fast head crab. Obviously, he doesn't care about me. I don't know what this attic served. Obviously, there's no other way to get into this attic through other than these sets of boards that were probably set up by Grigori. And speaking of, he comes out over here to shoot some more zombies. And obviously, this is supposedly a dead end based on the textures, but at least from the last place we saw him, like, there's at least some practicality to the notion that he came out through this side of the building, compared to the other times where he just seems to just literally teleport between areas he couldn't possibly reach. But yeah, I don't know what this attic served. And then we will go back onto the second lip, and we have a instance of odd architecture in relation to enemy placement again. So this headcrab torso is here in front of a closed door. So the implication is that this zombie torso somehow managed to open the door and close it, or he possibly got himself there by somehow crawling on top of here and into this ledge, into this building, without accidentally falling off. Because that's the only way that would make sense for him to be here relative to anything else. And then the rest of this, there's not really anything out of the ordinary. It's just mostly just a demonstration of, like, I guess the notion of people experimenting on these zombies with them being slapped on these tables this way. And you got a whole slew of zombies you gotta kill. And then at that point would be the end of this map. And that is it for D1_town_01A. And that was that for that map. Again, tune in next week as there will be another Odd Architecture map for the Ravenholm chapter.